Hey everyone, I hope you all are doing good. And today is the day two of our workshop. In the yesterday's class, we studied about some basics of HTML, how we can create a basic simple portfolio website, how we can add styles to it, what are the different methods of adding CSS styles, and all of these things. So let's just quickly revise all of the things that we studied yesterday and then continue further. And today, what we are going to do is we are going to add some of the JavaScript part in our like portfolio project, and also we are going to create a new application which is basically a to-do list app which will be created by using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So let's start. Let me just share my screen. Okay, so yeah. So in the yesterday's class, we like studied about what exactly HTML means. So HTML is not a programming language; it's just a markup language. Then we studied different types of tags that are present in HTML. The first tag that we studied was the title. Second was the heading tags, different type of size of headings. Then we had the unordered list, the ordered list. We then had anchor tag, and then we had the p tag, right? After that, we had this image tag in it, and then we had this superscript tag, which is used to create the superscript of our text. For example, if I want to write 2 to the power 10, so I can create 10 as a superscript by using this particular tag. Then we studied about the sub tag, which is the subscript tag, and when we had written like H2O, then we were using it particularly. So yeah. So now HTML, they should have a head and body tag inside it. That is, we studied about it. Like HTML contains the head tag, which contains all of the links and the references and everything, and also the title that is being displayed on the top tag. And then we have the body part inside which we have all of the content or the text that is being displayed on the web page right now. Right. So this is what it was like HTML tag was divided into two parts. Now, the more important thing which we studied was that a web page should only have one H1 tag. The reason being, when we are searching, when someone is searching our website on the internet, then he or she will be able to see it at the top search. So in order to make that happen, right? So in order to so that search engine brings our web page to the top searches, we use best practices in HTML that we have. So if we have only one H1 tag, then it will help in search engine optimization, and then we can like use it accordingly. Okay, so that's why we only use one H1 tag. You will not get an error, but this will help in bringing your web page to the top searches. Then we studied about like some of the symbols that we have. We studied about div, like div is a simple container. And also one more important thing which we like have not covered yesterday was that there are different variations of div. For example, we have nav, header, footer, section, and article. So they are exactly like them, but their name tell us what elements they contain, right? For example, nav tells us that we have this as navigation bar. Okay, header tells us that okay, this is the header section. Footer tells us the last portion of here, and section tells us that there are different sections. And article, they all have their literal meaning according to the name they are being given, right? And then we studied about the break line tag or line break. Okay, so which is used to give break to like line break. And the next is HR, horizontal rule, and which is used to add a horizontal line to the tag. So I hope this all part is clear to all of you. Now, yeah, we studied about all of these things. We also studied about forms and tables in HTML. We studied that there are some different portions in the table. We also created a table. Let me just open the code once. Okay. Let me check where we had created this table part. Hmm. Yeah. So here, when we scroll down a bit in our previous code, like the portfolio website code, we can see that we created a table here, right? So we use this table tag. Inside it, we create a table row and we added headers, table headers, and we also added table details with the TD symbol. And then we created a table. Let me open this particular uh, a web page. And if I paste the URL here, then you can see that we created this type of table which contains the table header. These two are the table headers, and these are the table details that we have here. Okay, so this is how we create a table. We also created a form below. You can see this particular form. So here we can enter our name, we can enter our email and message by using the label and the input values, right? So we can see here, this is the section, and here, like I have given an action. So for all the form, we have to give an action, like what after we submitted this form, where it will be posted, and the method of on that we have to push on this URL is post. So what exactly is this method? These methods are some CRUD operations which we'll study later on when we'll be discussing the backend part. So for now, you can understand that this is a post method which posts or sends some information to your server. Okay, so this is your server and you are sending some information with the method of post to this particular server that we have. So we access servers using the URL. So this is how we have created a form also in HTML. So I hope the part up till here is clear to all of you, and we can move quickly to the CSS part. Okay, so just give me a minute. Let me paste it once. Okay, so this is an example website which is created using CSS. Okay, and there are some different images that we have here, right? So here, like these are all the images that were created by using HTML, and then some CSS styles were being applied to it. Some width and height of 500 pixels is being applied to it, and you can see how beautifully they are looking. And we have also used Flexbox for it. So here you can see this is the particular image width and the margin that we have given to it, and also some of the navigation tabs that we have here. Right? So this is an example of website that you can also create by using HTML and CSS only. Okay. Now next is just give me a minute. What else you can do by using CSS? Let me show it to you once. If I copy the path and I paste it in the browser, so you can create a simple, beautiful button by using CSS. See, this particular button can also be created using CSS. And initially, if you look at the button that HTML gives us, it looks something like this, right? It looks something like this. This is a simple submit button. And if I see this particular button, then it's much more better, right? So we use the power of CSS for like improving the styles of our web pages. So we create like we connect our CSS file by using a link which is related to style sheet, and the href or the URL or the path of our file is styles.css, right? So inside styles.css we add attributes, the value and their value, right? So here, for example, there are a lot of attributes that we have in CSS, and we have not covered all of them, but I guess they will be you will be able to understand them if you are going to study about it. The more important part is the syntax of it. So the in body, if you write font family, then you can add some font family to your font. So if I open this particular page only of this fancy button, then on body we have given a different type of font here. So if you just click on inspect. Okay, right click and click on inspect and you go to console. like elements, in the elements tab only, if you scroll down a bit, you will be able to see all the styles that you have applied here, right? All the styles that you have written in your CSS file. So here I have written this particular font family as Roboto Sans Serif. If I just untick this or remove this, then you can see that this is a different type of font that we have. If I click on this, then this particular body will have a Roboto Sans Serif font. Otherwise, if we don't have it, this will be like a normal default font of the web browser. Now here we have also defined display flex property. If I remove this, then the alignment that was being given to this particular button will not work. This is what we have studied up till now. So if I give it a display flex property, remove the align items and justify content properties also, then you can see I am not able to align it properly with my web page, right? So I can just justify the content to the center, because by default the direction of flex is row, so justify content will work in the x direction. If I write here align items center, then our button will come at the center. See this particular line, pink purple line that you are seeing right now, it defines that on the y axis it's at the center, and in justify content you can see that this particular line is at the center of the x axis. Now if I remove this height of 100 vh part, then your body will not have a height of 100 vh but an auto height. Okay. So if I give border to it to show it to you more clearly, like what we have in this part. So 2 pixel solid red. So you can see now your body that we have here is, it's just of height of auto, right? How much this particular button is taking the width. And if I click on it, then you can see now this has become the height of 100%. So that's how you can add different styles to your CSS, what we studied. And now when we come to this particular button, how we can create this, we can target the button element of our HTML. We can give it some background, or if we don't want it, we can simply say background will be none. Like it's very self-explanatory with the right language. If you know English, then like it's very easy to understand what is being written here. The only part that you have to understand is the syntax of it. So if you write here color, so we have given this particular color to our to our button. See, this is the color that we have given, and the border is 2 pixels solid, right? So we don't have a background, but we have a color of this. We have given it a border of 2 pixels in solid, and we have given it some padding. Now, what exactly padding means? This is the new part that we are going to study right now. Okay, so let me close this once, and uh, just wait a minute. Okay, now comes the part of padding. Okay, so what exactly is box model in CSS? So CSS says that everything that we have in like, okay, just give me a minute. Okay, yeah, sorry for the disturbance. So what I was saying was that in CSS, everything that we have, like all the elements of the HTML and all the color and all the style, they are in the form of a box model. Okay, so they are in the form of box. So if I go to this particular web page and if I open the console, or let's open this particular elements tag, then you can see that we have a box kind of structure here, right? So they contain some different things like margin, border, padding, and some height and width to it. So if you click on body, the body element here, then it is containing a box. Okay, and if I scroll down a little bit, open this body part and click on this particular button, then button also contains a unique, a custom, this particular box of its own, right? So button does not have a margin, but it has a border of 2 pixels that we have given it. It has a padding of 16 pixels and some height and width that we have specified in our code, right? And if you click on the body, then this is the height and width of the body that we have specified. It does not have a padding. It has a border of 2 pixels that we have specified it, and it has a margin of 8 pixels around it. So everything that you have in CSS is a box model. So inside the box model, we have four things: the height and width. This is the first part, which is represented as the blue. So height and width is what is displayed at the top, right? Then comes the padding part. So between the border and your height and width, there is a distance between them. So that distance is known as padding. So if I just click on this button, let me show it to you once. If I click on this button and show it to you, then this green portion that is being highlighted here, this is the height and width of your sign up button. And here you have given some padding to it. This padding is 16 pixels of padding you have given it. And if I just reduce it to zero, just give me a minute. Yeah. If I just reduce it to zero. So I have reduced it to zero, and you can see the height and width. This particular blue portion is the height and width of your button. But the space between the content inside the button, the content is sign up, and the border that we have here, both of these distance is like negligible, right? So it's not looking good. So for creating distance between your border and your height and width, what we do, we add padding. Okay, so this is what padding means. Let me just click on this 10 pixels of padding on all sides. So now it will look much better, right? So you can add it custom on all the four sides. See, this is how styles are being applied here. Padding top 10 pixel, left 10 pixel, right 10 pixel, and bottom 10 pixel. Now, similar to it, we have studied about border property. So if I just make this zero, then this top border will vanish out. Or I can simply make it as 100 pixels. So if I create it 100 pixels, then this will be your width of the border. Okay. So now the next part which comes is the margin. So margin is the distance between your other contents that you have on the web page and your height and width. So if you add margin to something, then it will be shifted accordingly. So let me just refresh everything. Okay. Now show it to you with the help of some code that we are going to write. I hope this part is clear to all of you. Okay. Hmm. Okay, so now border, it's very obvious what border means. Padding, I have already told you, it's the space between content box and the border. Then we have the width, it's the width of the content area and the height. And then we have the margin. Okay, so the shorthand property that we were using up till now, we were writing something like border, right? So, and then we were writing 2 pixel solid red, for example. We were writing something like this. So this is a shorthand of using the this particular border notation. So here you write the width, you write this particular style of your border, and you write the color. So that's how you can specify border on all the four sides. Suppose you want it to be custom, right? So what you can do, you can write here only add border to the left portion of 2 pixels. Okay, and you can say border style, what can be the border style or border width, and you can also specify the border color here. Okay, so we generally use the shorthand properties, so we'll continue with that part only. Okay, now we can also specify the radius of our border. For example, if you want rounded corners or something, just like we did in our portfolio web page, right? So what we did, we converted the corners of our images into rounded corners. So we can use percentages, we can use pixels for this. So we can also specify it. Okay. Now, if we go to this particular URL, so this is a really great URL for like uh, testing out different borders that we have, and you can add different, you can like create different shapes by using border radius. So if you see this part, they have a border radius of very different values on all the four sides, right? So I can simply change it. I can like change it here, here, or here. So this will change the radius of our borders accordingly, and you can copy this and use it accordingly, right? I can also create custom sizes. For example, I can create a 300 width, 300 height, and this will be okay. So you can create these particular borders, and if I just make all of them to be, yeah, uh, these percentages, these static percentages, then this will become very static. I can also reduce it here, right? So it has been reduced. What else I can do is I can just simply add same value on all the four sides. For example, I can simply write it here. Uh, yeah. So if we add some this type of value, then we can create semicircles. We can create ellipse. So you can go through this particular website to create some fancy border radius. Okay. So now next part we have is the padding. So padding is the space between the content box and the border. We have padding left, padding right, etc. We can also give it, or we can use the same shorthand notation that we were using for border. So if you want to add 10 pixels of padding on all the four sides, then you can use this first line and it will be added. 10 pixels of padding will be added on all the four sides. If you want to like add different values on up and down, portion of the element, and you want to add different padding on left and right portion, then in that case you can use custom values. You can use 5 pixels for up and down, and you can use 10 pixels for left and right. So this is also how you can add padding to the element. Then we have the third part, which is like we can add custom values on three sides. So when you write values on three sides, for example, here first it's written for 1 pixel. So 1 pixel will be applied on the top, 2 pixel will be applied to the horizontal part, and 2 pixel will be applied to the bottom part, right? And if we use the last notation, which is the fourth part, in which we add the uh, uh, we add this width on all the four sides, then they will work in a circular motion. If I write 5 pixel here, then this will work at the top. If I write 1 pixel, it will be for right, 0 will be for bottom, and 2 pixels will be for the left part. So I hope this part is clear to all of you. Then we have the margin, which is exactly similar to how we are writing padding. So, for example, if I want to add 10 pixels of margin on all the four sides, I can simply write here 10 pixels. If I want to add custom margin on top and bottom and left and right, then I can use 5 pixels on top and bottom and 10 pixels left and right. So, if I want if I want margin on three sides, like custom margin on three sides, then I can use 5 pixels on top, okay, and then 10 pixels on top and bottom, top and bottom, or let's say horizontal, left and right part, and 20 pixels for the bottom part. So we can use the third notation similar to padding, and the fourth one is we can use custom on all the four sides. This will be top, right, bottom, and left part. So this is how we can add margin also in our code inside the CSS elements. Then margin is the space outside the border. This I have already told you guys. So this is an important part which needs to be covered in box model. Then like we studied about some display properties. We studied about display flex property. These are some new properties that we have inside display. So let me just open one code file. Okay, so Let me just go back. Remove everything. So now what we have here one two H1, which is I am H1 and I am also H1. We have these two particular H1 here, and we have connected a style sheet to it, and we have given it some what we can say, we have given it some styles. So if I go to its associated styles.css file, so you can see we have given some of the styles to H1. Like we have given this particular greenish blue color to our headings. We have specified some border of 1 pixel on all the four sides. We have also given a height of 300, width of 300 pixels. We can also give some height to it, like 300 pixels height. We can also add some padding to it, margin, and the display property we have added inline here. So, what exactly does this display inline property means? So, just let me just remove this or comment this out for once, and let me show it to you. So, you can see when as soon as I added this particular, remove this particular display inline property, then these headings, these particular H1 have taken the full horizontal width, and they too have come at the at vertical distances from each other, right? The first one is taking the full horizontal space, and the second one is like, taking the full horizontal space below it, right? So here what we have it as like border 1 pixel solid black, and we have given a width of 300 pixel, height of 300 pixel, padding of 50 pixels on all four sides. If I just remove padding and margin, then also you can see a very clear difference between it. So here, if I zoom it a little bit, so you can see this is your element which only contains height and width and the border, right? If I add 50 pixels of padding on all four sides, I have added 50 pixels of padding. So now all the content that I had inside my particular element, they have shifted 50 pixels from all the four sides. So padding is basically the distance between border and the content. Then if I add margin here, then you will see that margin works outside of your element. So if I refresh this, then margin will work as it will give 50 pixel distance from all the four sides of the element. This also had 50 pixels of distance from all the four sides. Now, by default, the display property that we have in CSS is block property. So right now, all of the elements that we are seeing here on the web page is displayed in the property of block. So if I refresh this, nothing will happen because this display property is by default incorporated. Okay, if you don't write it, then by default browser will consider it to be block elements. Now, as soon as I write here display inline property, okay, you will see one big difference. The difference is that the height and width part that we had here, it has gone. Now it's no longer 300 pixel width and 300 pixel height. They have reduced, and also they are not taking the complete horizontal area that we have here. So this is the disadvantage of inline. Now let's suppose you want to add two headings on one line only. You don't want your this particular heading to take the complete horizontal width. So you have made it display inline. But the problem with inline is this, that you cannot give it some height and width, right? So to bring the best of the both world, what we do, we use display inline block property. So if I do display inline block, then they will come as separate entities here. Okay. So if I just remove the height part, let me just try this. Click on refresh. So you can see now they are working. The height and width part is also working correctly on it. Okay. So yeah, we have this div inside them, 200 pixels in height, and they have this particular color. So let me check if they have it here. Yeah, they have these divs, but something is not written here, so they are not visible. But I guess you guys are able to understand the part between the display flex, display inline, and the display inline block properties. So let me just open it once. So we have three properties in display apart from display flex property. First is the display inline. So it can make block level elements behave like inline elements. Okay. So inline elements, width and height are ignored. They are not considered, and padding is respected. Like we can add padding, but it does not displace the rest of the content. So padding just lies on top of it. Okay. Margin is also respected, but it is respected only in the same line. So this is important criteria that we have to consider. Then the block elements, everything is respected. So in order to solve this issue, what we do, we use the inline block property. So if we just go back and show it to you, so here if I did display block property, then width and height are also respected. Padding and margin is also respected on all the four sides. But if I just do simply inline, then margin is respected only in the horizontal region, not on the vertical part. So that's the basic difference between all of them. So we use inline block. They behave like inline elements, but everything is respected like the block level elements. And if suppose we don't want to see any element, what we can do, we can simply write here display property as none. So if I do this and if I click on refresh, then they will vanish. So I can also use this. If you see here, I have also given this particular div as display none property. Let me just click on this. So you can see I have these three divs here of these olive drab color. So if I give it display inline property only, not inline block, and if I go back and I click on refresh, so you can see now height and width of these divs have gone. There is no height and width, and also there is no padding or margin here. Margin is also only given in the left and right part. Okay, this 50 pixel margin. If I remove this, you can see the difference. So we don't have any distance between them. So if I give 50 pixel margin, so there is margin and padding are respected in display inline property. If I change it to display block, then everything is respected, but you cannot make the elements in one line. You cannot bring the elements in one line if you are writing it in block form. Now, if I just simply write here display inline block, okay, then we can it will behave as similar to like very similar to both the properties of both. Okay, so that's how we can use these display properties accordingly. Now, before moving further, we also have to understand some basic concepts about the units that we are using in CSS. So, if you guys have any doubts, you can ask, and we'll continue in a minute. If you have any doubts regarding this, then you guys can ask. Okay, so now let's move further. So units in CSS. So up till now, what we were doing, we were using different types of values here. For example, when we were writing width, we were using these TX values, or we were using some percentages in border radius. For example, when we were writing border radius, we were writing 50% or something, for example. So percentage, the px that we have here, all of these represent units in CSS. So what is the basic difference between all of them? So there are basically all these type of units that are being displayed here. There are two variations of units that we have in CSS. The first one is the absolute unit. Okay, so in absolute unit we have four variations: pixel, centimeter, inch, and millimeter. And for relative units we have percentage, m, and rem. So pixel, px, centimeter, inch, and millimeter, they all are starting units and they will not change when your screen size change or something. So what is the difference between the screen sizes? So if we are viewing this particular web page, for example, this is the web page that we have here, and we are seeing this particular web page on our on our browser screen, right? Yeah, we are seeing this particular web page, and if I go to inspect and click on this toggle button, then you can see for 1500 pixels of width, screen width, we are seeing it like this, and for smaller screen sizes, we are seeing it like this. So when you are using your web page on mobile use also, or for or for tablet screen also, then you have to like look very carefully that it should also look workable, or it should also work for lesser screen sizes apart from your like desktop and laptop screen sizes. So in absolute unit, when you write it, they will not change when your screen sizes when your screen size changes. But when it comes to relative units, these sizes change according to sizes of your screen. So the first one of your relative unit is percentage. So if you have width of 50%, then it will take up the half of the width of the parent element. Okay, so percentage will take up 50% of the width of your parent element. So let me show it to you with some code. I'll just copy path and paste this in the browser. So I have created this particular HTML page. Let me show you the code also. It contains the document type of HTML, the HTML language equal to English, and then we have the head part inside it. Inside the head part, we have the meta character set and all of the links and important things that is being displayed in the HTML page. Then we have the heading, CSS units, and the click me button. Then we have article inside which we have different text that we have here. And we also have some list and everything, and I have created this particular web page like this. Now if we go to its associated styles.css file, let me just open that also. So in this styles.css file, I have added some styles to it. For example, I have added for the whole HTML document font size of 10 pixel. And for percentages, all of the where we are using percentages, we have given it a width of 50%. So if I just click on inspect and increase the size of it here. Okay, so now let me make it 100%. Okay, so now you can see there are some of the texts which are reducing their sizes. For example, this particular text that you are seeing here, it's reducing, right? Since it is containing relative unit, and there are a lot of text, for example, this Finnish Rakota text, which is not changing its size, right? So it's very important to differentiate between all of them. Now, if we have used percentage, for example, it's being used here. So this particular width always remains 50% according to size of the screen. Right. So this is what is the basic difference between percentage. VH represents view height, which is just like percentage and works on the vertical area. Okay. So let me just go back. Hmm. So we have covered the part of the percentage. Now, what exactly is M? So if you write for M is generally used for font sizes, and if you write 1M, it means the same font size as parent. So suppose you have a div, for example, you have this particular div, okay, and you have this div closing tag here, okay, and inside this you have one H1. Hello, this is a heading. For example, you have written it something like this here, okay. And now, if you see very clearly, then this particular div, this is your parent. And since this particular tag is inside div, then this is known as the child element. So this particular div is the parent element, and this particular is the child element. Okay. So now, uh, here what is being displayed, if you give it a font size of, let's say 1M, font size of let's suppose you give it 1M. This means the font size of heading will be same as what the font size of your parent element is. Okay, so M works according to it. Now, with margin and padding, 1M is equal to font size of the element. Now, 1 pixel we can scale an element, but with 1M we can scale an element with relative unit. Now, the what now we have another type of unit which is rem. So rem overcomes the shortcoming of m, which means that if you have nested lists, for example, then you can use m, and if you want to change the size of the outermost list, then you have to like change all of them accordingly, because list items are nested inside it. They have parent-child relationship, so m's will not work properly on it. So to overcome this, we use rems. So rems are relative to root of the HTML document. So for example, you have your HTML document with this particular body tag. Okay, you have this HTML document here. Okay, and here you have H1. Okay, hello. So, if the font size that you have of your body or your HTML document is, let's suppose, 13 or 15 pixels, for example, then if you write here one rem for your H1, then your H1 will also have a font size of 15 pixels. So this is how rem will work. So it will work according to root of the HTML document, and M was working according to to the font size of the parent. So this is what I have written here also. It's relative to root of the HTML element size. If root font size is 20 pixel, then one rem will always remain as 20 pixels. So this is a very important part that we have. So we can specify the root HTML font as 10 pixels, and rem will work according to it. So now M's are generally used for border radius, etc. when you want to scale it, and rems are generally used for font sizes. VH and VW. So we have seen inside height, we were writing something like 70 VH. So what VH means? VH is the view height, or how much part you are seeing on your screen of the web page. It's the view height. So if you write 70 view height, then it will be 70% of the view that you are seeing on your screen. And similar is the VW. So how much width you are seeing right now on your screen, that will be your view width. So both of these work simultaneously together. Now, if you write width 50%, or like if you write width 50 VW, it means 50% of the viewport width or screen that you are seeing. If height is 70 VH, then it means 70% of the viewport of height or screen. Okay, so that's the basic difference, or like the basic fundamentals of the units that we have here. So I hope this part is clear to all of you. Next part that we have is the opacity and the alpha channel that we are going to discuss. So let's take a minute or two break and then start with the opacity part. Okay, let's continue further. So the next part that we have in CSS is the opacity and the alpha channel. So I have created one new HTML page, which again contains the doc type HTML, all the links and references. I have connected it with CSS file, and inside the body I have section, and inside this I have divs. These particular divs. So that is what I have here right now. So just give me a minute. Yeah. So if I open this particular HTML document in browser, then you can see I have developed something like this by using CSS. So this particular pink section is the parent div and this is the child div, and inside it I have some text. Here also I have some particular text. So here this particular first section which has the ID of RGBA. Okay, so let's just see this what exactly it means. I have given this particular div an ID of RGBA. So the first div has an ID of RGBA, and here I have a width of 50%, height of 50%, and background color of this color. So this is something like this color. Okay. So now we have understood that okay, if I change it to something like this, then this means an RGB value, red, green, and blue value. So that's something different. Like it contains three values. But if you see the RGBA part, it contains four parameters. These are the four parameters that we have. First three are the RGB, that color values, and the fourth one is known as the alpha channel or the alpha color. So you can just simply change it to reduce the opacity of the color that we have. If I make it 1, so 1 is the maximum opacity. And if I click on refresh, so you can see this particular white color. This is white color right now. This is 100% or 1. When I write 1 here for the alpha channel. And if I write here 0, then this will be 100% transparent. You will not see any color here. If I change it to zero point 0.1, then it will be somewhat more than what it was exactly. So it's 1% transparent. Okay, I can make it 50% transparent. If I refresh this, and you can see it's 50% transparent. So you can change the color opacity or transparency by using the RGBA value. So if you simply write it like this, then you can change the color opacity. Now there is one another thing that we have in place of using RGBA like or the A value, what we can do, we can use opacity. But there is difference between both of them. So if you are using opacity, this second div, this has the opacity value. So if I just make this opacity as 1, and if I click on refresh, so you can see this is 100% opaque, right? It's very opaque. It's like not transparent. So this particular color, yellow, I have applied it here. And if I change the opacity to let's say 50% or zero point 0.5, and if I click on refresh, so you can see here only color was like becoming very transparent. But in this case, when I am using opacity, my text is also becoming transparent and all the elements inside it is also becoming transparent. So opacity works on the complete elements, like complete elements. This opacity ID is a div, and it's working completely on it. But if you see the RGBA value, it works only on the background color. So that's a very big difference and very important difference that we need to know between the RGBA and the opacity values. Okay. Then we have another important parameter, which are the position properties in CSS. So let me just open a new uh, file. So if you see this particular HTML file, it has a parent, child, and all of these things. I have defined some CSS here, and I have created three divs, given them the name of 1, 2, and 3, and these are the child divs of the parent. Okay, so let me just open this particular code file. Okay, and paste it here. So you can see I have this particular code file, and I have some display, let's say position properties applied to it. Okay, let me just close off everything and open only this. Okay, so let me just open the split screen view. Okay, So we have the the index.html part here, and we have the styles.css part. Hmm. So in parent, I have given a position property of relative to it. So what this means exactly? So if I just open our text editor, notes part here. Okay. So let me show it to you. Hmm. Hmm. So now I had written the position property of relative to the element that to the like page that I showed you earlier. So position properties in CSS, they determine how the element is going to be positioned in a document. So the top, bottom, left, and right properties, they determine the final position of the document. So if your position is static, which is by default given to the elements, right? So by default, all the elements that we have, they have a position of static, and like top, left, bottom, right, they don't have any effect on it. Okay, now position relative properties, they keep the element in the flow of the document and we cannot offset it. Okay, so if I have this position property relative, then I can add the top, bottom, left, and right properties to it. So let me just show it to you once. Let's do one thing. Yeah, let's go to this particular page and open the styles.css file of it. So for parent, what I have done, I have given it a position of relative property. Let me just comment out everything. And right now I only have one. Okay, so I am commenting out everything, and right now I only have one property, CSS property being applied on this particular page, which is the parent, which will have a position property of relative. Let me just go back, and here I have this particular parent text written here, which has a property of relative. Okay, and height of 200 VH is being given to it. So this is the height of 200 VH width that is being VH width that is being given here. Okay, so now with position relative property, we don't have much of the difference. Now, if I just say left of 50 pixels, and if I click on refresh, so now you can see this particular parent div has moved 50 pixels from the left part, right? It has moved 50 pixels from the left. If I write here from top, move, let's say 100 pixels, 500 pixels, for example. And if I click on refresh, so you can see it has moved 500 pixels from the top. It's now no longer at the top, but 500 pixels below, right? Let me change it to 50 pixels back. So it will come 50 pixels below. So that's how relative property works. If you don't write relative property here, these left, top, bottom, and right values won't have any effect on it. Similar to this, you can write here bottom or you can write here right. Okay, so that's how this position relative property works. So if we have another type of property which is absolute. So let if I write here absolute, this will also work in a similar manner. Okay, so it will also give height and left and top values of 50 pixels from here. So when you write position absolute, then also you can use this top, left, bottom, and right properties here. So what is the difference between position relative and position absolute properties? So when you are using position relative properties, then your element does not move out of the flow of the HTML document. It remains intact in its position. But when you are using position absolute, it moves out of the HTML flow. It moves out of the HTML normal flow of the document. It moves out of it. So when you write position absolute, it simply moves out of the normal flow of the document, and it will not matter what all things you have in it. So let me show it to you by one example. Let's say I have this particular child one div. Okay, this child one class is being applied to this first child, which has color of 1. It's color of green, text of 1 is being written here, right? So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply position property of absolute to it, and let's see what happens. If I click on refresh, so you can see now the property of 1 has moved out of the flow. If I just say here display none, then you can see below this I have 2, but this particular one which is now absolute is not taking its place, right? It's now taking the place of 2, and it's not considering what element is being there. So when you write position absolute, it moves out of the flow. If I write here relative, then the position designated to this will remain intact. Let me just remove display none property here and click on refresh. So you can see now 1 has its own position here. If I just write here top 100 pixels, for example, then this will move 100 pixels at the bottom, but the distance of its the portion of the space that one was taking right now is intact there. But if I change to position absolute and I click on refresh, then you can see now no longer there is the space for 1. It has moved out of the flow of the document. So this is the difference between absolute positioning and relative positioning. Okay, so it keeps the element in the flow of the document and we can offset it. And in position absolute, element is removed from the flow of the document and no space is given to it. So everything else in the document renders as if the element doesn't exist. The next part is the position fixed property. So position fixed property is very similar to absolute property, and they also move out of the flow. And when we scroll down the page, let's suppose we scroll down the page, then nothing is fixed right now. But if I give a position property of fixed to my child one, I have given it fixed property to this particular element, and if I click on refresh and if I scroll down, then you can see this is fixed. When I scroll, this is fixed on the screen. It's completely fixed. And similar to this, if I write here sticky, this will also work in a similar way. The only difference is that one will remain here, and as soon as it moves out of the flow, it will go. Okay, so this is how we can use these different position properties in CSS. I hope this part is clear to all of you. You can take a minute for you can take a screenshot of this and then we can continue further. Okay, now let's continue further. So next we have the transitions property in CSS. So what exactly transition property means? Let's just go here and I have created this particular page by using by using HTML and CSS. The similar values, they have 4 divs as circles. See, there are 4 divs here, and I have a div named circle here. So I have 5 divs in total. The first div is given the name of circle, the class of circle, and these are the rest divs. So if I go to the CSS file of it, and if you see here, I have given a class of circle to this particular first div, and I have added some styles to it. And let me zoom it a little bit. So you can see I have width of 300 pixels here, I have height of 300 pixels here, and background color of magenta. So it's 300 pixels in width, 300 pixels in height, and background color of magenta. Then I have a transition property here in CSS that I have applied, and I have given this transition property on background color. So you can give transition property on basically anything. So for example, here I have given it to background color. So background color will change for 1 second, and border radius will also change for a duration of 1 second. So how it's going to change? So when we hover on the circle, the background color will become in cyan color and border radius will become 50%. So this is what we have done. So when we hover on the circle, then transition will be that background color will change for 1 second and border radius will change for 1 second. So if I click on this, then in transition, the background color has changed for 1 second and the border radius has also changed for 1 second. So if I just increase the timing of it, for example, and if I go here, then you can see it's also being happening for a different duration of time, right? So we can also do that. Okay, now we have the second div part. Okay, so here for the second div, let me show it to you once. So these are the section divs that we have here. So in all these section divs will be targeted when we write it something like this. So here we have the width of 100 pixels, height of 100 pixels, and background color of turquoise. We are given it. We have margin of 20 pixels, and we have given it a transition on margin left for 3 second duration. So if I hover on this particular div, on section divs, then margin left will be 500 pixels. We have given it something like this. So when we hover on this particular div, it will move 500 pixels to the left. And we also have in transition property the nth of time parameters in which we can define the transition timing functions also. So here we have ease in, here we have ease out, and some different cubic breezer parameters we can also specify. So if I just hover on it, you can see all of them have moved to 500 pixels to the left, and they have moved in different ways. For example, first, this is the way of defining your first div. So nth of type 1, they have a transition timing function of ease in. So first it will move slowly, then it will move fast for 500 pixels. For the second div, they have ease out. First it will move fast, and then it will move with the ease in value. Similarly, we can customize it by using Cubic Breezer and Cubic Bezier. So we can use all of them to create some kind of transitions like this. So if we go to this particular easings.net website, this is a really good website to see all of the parameters that we have. If you hover on something, you can see these are the different types of like parameters, how you can define it here: ease out chord, ease in out chord, and everything. So you can define it like this and use it in the transitions in CSS. The next that we have is the transform properties. So similar to how we are writing the transitions property in CSS, we also write the transform properties. So here in transform properties, we can define the angles with which our elements will be rotated. So for example, I can say translate a value to in x direction by some degrees, translate a value in y for some degrees, or we can scale the values also. Like we can scale the value in x direction, scale the value in y direction. We can also move the element, translate x and y, and like we can do all of these things. We can also use the skew values, and we can use all of them at the same time by separating them with spaces. So we can also do that. And one more important thing is that you don't have to remember all of these things. The most important part is learning the syntax and knowing that this can happen by using CSS. So in the transform property, let me show it to you once. So for first div, I have given it a rotate property of 30 degrees, for example. So it will be rotated by 30 degrees. For scaling, I have given it 0.6. So it will scale by value of 0.6. Similarly, I can translate it for 400 pixels, and I can translate it in two directions also by specifying it like this. I can skew it for 30 degrees and do a lot of do a lot of stuff with it. So let me just show it to you once how it will look. So if I just go here and paste the path, you can see I have defined it 45 degrees, transformed it, rotated this particular div. I have this is skew property that we have here. We have like divided it into two parts. It's in two directions, and if I click on this particular button, nothing will happen. And like there are a lot of things that you can do with the transform properties. The syntax is similar to it. Now we have covered the part of Flexbox. We have covered the part of media queries. We will be covering the part of media queries now. uh, Let me open the notes. So now comes the part where we are going to specify or understand how responsive websites are being developed. Okay, so with responsive websites, we have media queries also. We create one website according to, let's say, laptop's view, and we like work on it on different screen sizes. We like style it according to different screen sizes. For example, let me show this particular website only. If I click on inspect, and if I reduce the size of this, you can see it's not looking that good on mobile screen sizes, right? On lesser screen sizes, it's not looking that good. So to overcome this problem, we use media queries for creating these responsive websites. The syntax of using media queries is like we can use @media, and on max width we can specify how many pixels will be the maximum width, after which some of the styles will be applied. So let me show it to you, the code that we have here. So I have created this particular HTML file. I have connected CSS style with it, and now I have these particular links and media queries there. Okay, so uh, let me open this styles.css file. So here what I have done here is I have applied this media query on minimum width of 500 pixels, and when minimum width of 500 pixels will be there, the H1 color will be orange, and for 1000 pixels the H1 color will be yellow. For 1500 pixels the H1 color will be green. Okay, so let's see how it's working. Let me open this particular index.html file in the browser. Okay, so now when no when you have the largest screen width, then you will get a yellow color. So here, let's see where the yellow color is we have defined in our styles.css file. So when you see here, if you have a minimum width of 1000 pixels, like if you have a screen width of 1000 pixels, then you will get yellow color. So if you go to inspect, and if you make it 1500 pixels, for example, you will get this particular color, like green color here, because for screen widths above 1500 pixels and 1500 pixels, we have defined the color of heading as green. Now let me reduce it. Okay, I am reducing it one by one. So as soon as the color of like the screen width has reduced from 1500 pixels, we have defined the color till 1000 pixels. The color will be yellow. Okay, so between 1000 and 1500 pixels, the color will be yellow. So let me scroll down a little bit. So if you just scroll down here, so till 1000 pixels, the color will be yellow only. Okay. So as soon as the color like color has like screen width has reduced, You can see now the color of orange is being applied to it here. You can also see in the inspect part here. So color of orange is being applied by the help of media queries. Let me just reduce it a bit more. So you can see I have reduced the screen size to 500 pixels and now color red is being applied. So I hope this part is clear to all of you how we are applying media queries and how we are defining different parameters here. So similar to like color also, you can define CSS styles of your choice here and create responsive websites according to it. So you can complete this part. You can try building a website like this using HTML and CSS and everything that we have studied right now. And it's also responsive. If you just click on inspect, you can see this is also a responsive website and it's looking good on mobile view also. So you have to create a website like this. These are the three divs and everything. And you can like create buttons and everything here. And like if you are able to build this, then you have like grasped the concept of all the HTML and CSS part that we have studied up till now. So I'll give you a minute or two to take the screenshot of it and then we'll continue further. Okay, so now I think we can move further with the with the CSS part, and now we can start with the JavaScript part. So while developing the JavaScript part, what we are going to do, we are going to create a project and learn up according to it, like learn along with it. All the concepts today with the JavaScript. So we can also revise in this way all the concepts of HTML and CSS that we have studied up till now. So I'll do one thing. I'll create a new folder here, and inside the pricing panel, I will create this particular code new file. Let me create it somewhere here. Let me create it here only. Okay, so I'll create a new folder here and this will be to-do list project. Okay. Inside this, I will create a new file, index.html, and I will create another new file which will be styles.css. And when I have to create like the JavaScript, what we do, I write index dot .js. So for writing the JavaScript file, what we do, we write dot .js notation here. So I'll start with the HTML part. So for creating a to-do list app, what we need basically four parameters here. So we need like uh, a task button to add list options, to add the list items, a delete option, and what we can say, delete option, the updating list item, and everything. So we have all of these things there, right? So let's try building this. So first of all, what we'll do, we'll write doc type HTML, then we'll say HTML, language to be English, and then we will add some meta character set, the Unicode character set, and then we will add a to-do list title here. Okay, so if if we just open this particular index.html file, so now it's blank, and I'm getting this particular title to-do list. Now inside the body part, right now what I have done here is, let me add HTML tag also here. Save this. So you can see I have this to-do list of two tasks. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to add tasks. For example, if I have a button here of add the item, for example. Okay, so if I click on this particular button, it should add items to my list. Okay, so that's what is where the use of JavaScript comes into play. So HTML can create the blueprint of your web page, and CSS can beautify your web page. But for bringing functionality to your web pages, what you have to do, you have to use the JavaScript part. So in order for button to function properly or add list items, you have to use JavaScript. You cannot do this task without using JavaScript. You have to use JavaScript in this case. So let me just, if I click on this particular button, add item, then this should add an item. Okay. So let's now create a structure of our to-do list app, and then we'll add CSS and JavaScript to it. So if I write here the button to remove an item, then I should be able to remove it. Okay. If I have a button to remove all the items from the list, then I should also be able to do that. So right now for my to-do list, what I have done here is I have added three things here. I can add an item, remove an item, or remove all the items from the list. So what I will do, I will beautify this particular list here. So let's try doing this. Okay. So now inside the head part, what we'll do, we'll add a link which is related to style sheet, and I will add styles.css here. So let's just test it once. So in H1, I can try changing the color to this particular color, and you can see it's working. So now I just remove this, and now I will try applying some of the tasks. For example, here I will add some font families. So for adding some custom font families, I can simply go to Google Fonts. I can browse the fonts here. So there are a lot of fonts that are present in the Google Fonts, this particular web page, and I think I'm liking this particular font. So I will click on this. I will click on Get Font. I will click on Get Embed Code, and I will use this for my web page. And if I click on here, the copy code part, I will paste it in my index.html file here. And after pasting this, I can use this in my web page also. So here I can write here font family, and that will be, let's see what they have said. I have to write here this particular value, and I will be able to add it. Okay, so let me just paste it here. Let me just copy this particular part, okay, and paste it here. Let me just go back, click on refresh. So you can see now my text is looking a lot more different than the previous text. I will increase the font size of my heading. I will make it 4M. So this will be a lot more bigger. I can also add font weight to it. So I will add font weight of, let's say, 700 to it. So if I click on refresh, so you can see it's 700, but I can create it around 900. Let me refresh this. So it's a lot more bolder now. So I can add some letter spacing to it in 0.05 m. So that's more spaced. I can also create it 1 m or something. Let's see this. So it's a lot more. I can create it point 0.9. Let's just go back, click on refresh. So you can see now this part is okay. So now what I'll do, I will align this text property to the center. Okay. I can also transform the all the characters that we have here to uppercase characters. So they have now been transformed to uppercase characters. I can also like change the color of it to purple or something. Okay. So let's just reduce the color of it, something like this. A lighter shade we can take here, and let me click on refresh. So you can see now it's looking much better. So I have defined the uh, defined the heading here. So I can also target the body, and I can change the background color of it to somewhat like this. If I click on refresh, let's make it a little bit darker side. Let's go back, click on refresh. So you can see now I have also added the background color to our body. Now comes the list items. Okay, so here for the list items, I will target the all the list items inside the UL. Okay, so list style types can be none. So if we go back, click on refresh. So in this case, your list style type will be none, but I want it to be like some other values. So what I can do here is I can change list style type. I can make it Armenian. So if I click on refresh, these will be Armenian. So let's think about what type of list style type we can take here. Let's try upper Roman. Uh, let's try circle. Okay, so we can go with circle right now. And let's increase the font size to 1.5 m. Okay, let's make these texts somewhat bolder, and let's change the color to some better color. Okay, and let's also add some font family to it. So we can add font family here. Okay, now what we'll do is let's go back here and let's wrap our unordered list items inside a div. Okay, so this div is just like a container here. So let's target the container class here, and let's give it some different background color. So I have given some different background color here, the width here, margin and padding and the border radius. So if we give 0 and auto padding, so this container will come at the center of our web page. We have given some padding and some border radius. We can also give some box shadow. This is also a property in CSS which is used to give shadow to our elements. So if you just click on refresh, so you can see now I have this particular container here which is containing my list items. Okay, so these are some of the defined list items that we have here. So we can also use them. And yeah, so now what we can do is we can increase the height of our container and width of our container. So width is 500 pixels right now. We can change it to 80% right now. So if I click on refresh, so you can see now it's 80%. Now I can also define some height to it. So I can give it a minimum height should be let's say uh, 90 VH. Okay, and if we go here, then minimum height will be 90 VH. Let me change it to 50 VH approximately. So yeah, so minimum height will be 50 VH. Otherwise, the height will be auto. Okay, so beyond 50 VH, height will be auto. Minimum height will always remain 50 VH. Now inside the container, we can also specify the aligning properties. So I will call it display flex. All of them will come in one row. Then we can say flex direction will be column, and we can after column what we'll do, we'll justify these contents to be space between. Okay, so after I do this and I click on refresh, let me make it at the center. Okay, I don't think this is looking good, so I will let it be at the start only. Okay, now for the button, I will give some margin to this particular button. I will give some width to this button, height of 30 pixels. We can give border radius. We can give the background color to this particular button, and we can also change the color of the text. We can change the font family of our button. Okay, Montserrat. We can change the font weight, font size, and we can add some margin of 10 pixels to it. So if I click on refresh, so you can see now all of them have like become a lot more better. But these items are like these text is overflowing. So in that case, what we can do, we can increase the height uh, of our button. So if I click on refresh, so you can see now it's looking a lot more better. We can also increase the width of our button. So if I click here, so now we have this particular three buttons with our to-do list items. So I think it's looking a lot more better than before this particular to-do list item. Now the next part that we have to check here is how we are going to add JavaScript to it. Now for adding JavaScript to our project, what we do, we add here uh, at the lowest portion of your code, just above the ending tag of the body, you write a script, just like this link. You write a script here, you add the source here, and you say script.js. Okay, so right now our SRC is not script.js, it's index.js. So you will write it like this here, and once you have done this, you are connected with your JavaScript file that you have here. So if you go to index.js, and for testing, what you can do, you can simply write a command here, alert, and inside this alert you can write hello world. Okay, now if I click on oh, refresh it, you will be seeing an alert on your web page saying hello world. So this confirms that okay, now we have our uh, HTML page connected with with our JavaScript code. Okay, so I can just simply remove this. Okay, so now what we have to do is we have to target this particular button that is present in HTML. So now for that we create variable in JavaScript. So when you use let, you create a variable here. Okay, and you say just a minute. Okay, what we can do here, we can create a item here. Okay, so if I write here const item, and if I say, let me make it let only. So here, if I say let item is equal to 1, okay, I have created something like this. And if I write a command console log item, so this is an example of how we can add parameter to it. You can check this particular console here. If I click on refresh here, you can see one being displayed here. So this is how we define variables in JavaScript. So in place of let, you can also use const, but when you use const, you cannot change the variable a lot of times. So if I write here item is equal to 2, item is equal to 2, and you console log item here. You can also specify item equal to 3 and console log here. So if I just click on refresh, so you can see 1, 2, and 3 are being displayed here. But if I am using const here, okay, and if I click on refresh, go back, click on refresh here, then I will be getting an error. Okay, so this is the difference between const. So when you are using let, you will be able to change your item value later on in the code. But when you are using const, you won't be able to change it like this. This will throw an error in JavaScript. So you cannot do that when you are using const here. So that's an important part that we need to we need to be discussed here. So for now, what we'll do, we'll target this particular button here, okay, for adding a list item. So here, what we'll do, we'll create a button, okay, document dot query selector button, okay, and we will add an event listener to it. So for you will not be able to understand it right now what all things we are doing here. So what we'll do, we'll go to the theory part of it for understanding what we are doing here. Okay, so let's just go to the theoretical part one by one, and then try building this part from scratch for the JavaScript. Okay, so now this is an example of how I have created one app here, app.js, and I have connected it with my index.html file that is present here. Let me just copy the path here and paste it here. Okay, so this is what is being displayed in the first script right now. If I go to the console here, let me go back to app.js. Okay, so here I have defined one variable. Let add is equals to 1 plus 3. Okay, now if I console log here hello from our first JS file, then this will be displayed in our developer console. Okay, so this is how we can console log things in JavaScript. If I console log goodbye, I'll also be able to see that. Now, the result of add 1 plus 3, like we add different things, we can also console log that. So the result of 1 plus 3 is 4, so I'm getting 4 here. I can also generate random numbers in JavaScript by using let x is equals to mat.random. So by using this particular function, I can generate random number here. For example, this is a random number that is being generated. If I again click on refresh, you will see a new number being generated. No matter how many times I click on it, I am being generated I am getting a random number. Okay. Now, if I console log x here, so I will be able to see these random numbers. That is what I am seeing right now from line number 9. So here also I have added conditional statements. So conditional statements can be added in JavaScript. So if I have x value of x as less than 0.5, okay, so it will display this console log you can drink. Otherwise, it will display no. Okay, so if I go back and I click on refresh, so if this particular value is less than 0.5, okay, then I will be getting displayed you can drink. So right now it's not less than 0.5, so I'm getting no. If I refresh this again, I am getting you can drink. So conditional statements or if else statements. They are executed whenever we like want to whenever we want it to be. So if this particular statement is true, then we make this particular console log. Otherwise, we'll get this. So this is how we can define variables. We can console log things in JavaScript, and we can console log by using the conditional statements that we have here. Okay, so this is what we were doing up till now. Adding script tag app.js in HTML, and it is added to the last line of the body. And we can write console log for printing statements in the console that we were doing right now. And this is what like a whole structure of your complete web application look like. So HTML is used for creating structure of the web pages. It's just like a blueprint of the house. CSS is used for creating styles, painting house, decorating it. JavaScript is used for electricity connection or water connection, for example, you do at your house for core functioning of your house. So that's JavaScript is the core functionality of your web page. Now, we are going to study a more important part, which is also going to be used in our to-do list project, which are arrays. So if you are writing for now only one variable, let's suppose a. Okay, let me just open the app.js file. So here up till now what we were doing, we were only writing one variable inside, let's say I was writing let a is equals to 10. So I was able to store only one value at a time in a. But by using arrays inside a, I can store multiple values. For example, I have this particular data array named food items. Okay, and I have done what I have added inside this food items array three values. Okay, the white bread, brown bread, and all of these things. So similar to this, I can create a variable b and I can specify more than one values here. So b now contains five values like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I can also add like I can save more than one values in a variable. So if I like console log b and 2, then let's see what we get here. Okay, so if I click on refresh here, let me open this particular code file associated with it. So this is the index.html file that is associated with our with the part that we are doing right now. If I click on inspect and go to console, then you can see that I am getting this particular b2 value from line number 5 as 3, right? Since the index starts in array, the index starts from 0. So at second value 0, 1, and 2, you are getting 3 here. Okay, so if you console log it, you will get 3 here. Okay, if you change the value to 10 and you again try console logging the b2 value, then in that case you will be getting 10 here. Okay, so again if I try console logging the complete array, okay, let me try console logging the complete array. So you can see I am getting these 5 values. I have changed the second value to 10. That's why I'm getting 10 in place of 3 here. If I remove this and if I click on refresh again, then you can see this is how I can console log my array. Okay, so I can create nested arrays also, like array inside an array. So for food items, I have defined these nested arrays, which contains the category of bread, the second category of ice cream and cake, and the third is the category of noodles and pasta. Okay, so I have created it like this. And if I console log these food items, let me try console logging the complete food item list. Okay, let me try console logging the complete food item list. So you can see I am able to console log the complete food item list. Okay, now if I want to access only this particular value, ice cream, so what I can do, I can add this particular value and I can say the first row, the first value. Okay, so that's how I can do. This is the second row and this is the first value. So if I just go back and click on refresh, so you can see I'm able to target ice cream here. So that's how I can access different values. Now I can also create objects just like arrays. They are also a part of JavaScript. So if I create an object employee, I no longer use here the square bracket. I use parenthesis here, and inside it I add ID, name, age, and occupation here. So if I want to access, let's say employee name, so I can simply write here employee.country is equals to India, or employee, or simply console log the employee value. So if I console log the employee value, I'll be getting the all the details of that particular employee, right? So I can also create object literals. So for now, in our to-do list project, we are requiring with the array part. Okay. So now we will create list items to do. Let's give it a to-do list. Okay. And we will initialize it empty right now. Okay. We will initialize it empty right now. Then then what we will do, we can push values in it. Okay. So if I console log here to-do list. Okay, so right now this will be empty. If we go to our to-do list app and if I click on inspect and if I go to console, so right now our array length is 0. There is, since there is no value in it. So if I want to add any value, what I can do, I can simply push values in it, like to-do list by groceries and by groceries. For example, I have added two values. So now our to-do list app contains two values. So that's how I can create two values and paste it accordingly. So now the next task that we have here by using JavaScript is to add items to this to-do list app basically. So in place of randomly pushing it like this, what we can do is we can create a function in JavaScript. So for creating function, the syntax is function add item. We can pass the parameter to it, and I will push that particular item. I will pass the parameter, and I will push that particular item inside it. Okay, so let me just remove this. This is the particular syntax of creating a function. Now I will call this particular function by writing the name of the function and then adding the task. For example, I can write here cooking. For example, this task I have written here. Okay, and if I click on refresh, so you can see now this particular task is being pushed to our item list. Okay, and again I can add here the another item, that is shopping or cleaning. So I can add more than one task here also. Okay, so that's how I can leverage the use of functions to do this. Okay, now let's suppose I want to remove the item from the list. So I will create a remove item function, and I can use the splice function from array for removing an item from the list. And by using the splice particular item, it will search for an item and then remove it. So let's suppose I want to remove cooking from here. So I will pass cooking and it will be removed. Let me show it to you. Uh, if I below this, let me do this. If I pass here remove item and I simply pass here the item. Let's say I pass here shopping, for example. Let's see what happens. Let me click on refresh. Let me console log the value again. Let me go back, click on refresh. So you can see now one of the list items have been removed from the list, right? Then what we can do? Yeah. So first item has been removed from the list beside the item. So we can also do that. We can also remove all the items by creating a new function. So I hope this part is clear to all of you. In tomorrow's session, what we are going to do is we are going to connect these functions with our buttons that we have in HTML, and then this will be a full-fledged like project of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript that we have here. So you also try building this meanwhile, and like revise all of the contents that we have studied for JavaScript, and we'll complete the JavaScript part for tomorrow's session. Okay, so thank you all for your time. If you guys have any doubts, you can ask in the chat box. Okay, guys, if you like don't have any doubts, I guess we can end today's session. And thank you all for your time. Have a nice day.